6. Maybe. Let's see where we're at. Chapter 9, 20. We're on text 28. We'll go back to 26 as part of a recap. It's important to remember where we were in the previous week's class. It's really critical because there is a flow to the Gita. And even if we tackle a chunk of the text each time, 5 or 8 verses that cover a particular subject, and in some ways represents a discrete unit, a particular teaching, a question that's answered, a particular angle. Nonetheless, it's a book. And, some people who throw tarot or I Ching or read tea leaves or chicken guts, which is a thing. People will essentially engage in random games of chance with the idea that somehow or other God or the universe being a omnipotent, powerful force that determines what tarot's pulled. You follow? And so it's a powerful force that affects the physical world and is benevolent because it's trying to help you and send you messages. And of course, is incredibly intelligent because it knows what you need. So it's all powerful because it can influence the laws of physics. It's all knowing because it knows everything in your life and everybody else in the universe's life, ostensibly, unless the universe only speaks to you. And it's also benevolent because it's trying to help you. And how to do that? It influences random games of chance. It would roughly be equivalent. It would exactly be equivalent to playing roulette or blackjack or 52 pickup or some kind of game of high card wins or whatever, and thinking that God was going to speak to you through which cards. In fact, the 52 card playing deck that we play poker with is older than the tarot deck. Tarot deck goes back like the 1500s, late 1400s, and our deck, the one we play, I don't play poker, but whatever, goes back to maybe a few decades earlier. And tarot being read as a spiritual thing, that's only a couple hundred years old. Tarot was a game that kids played and what have you. A couple hundred years ago, in Romani culture and kind of Eastern European culture, what have you, it turned into a means of divination. So, you got things like physiognomy things where, the lines on your palm or the iris of your eye or the time you were born at and the exact formation of the stars when you were born. Those things are based on at least linking you to some objective state of affairs in the world at the time you were born, or something that somebody can point to and say, oh, this is this and this is that. When you get into the divination systems, which involve these, essentially engaging in an act that is governed by physical laws that will then produce a random outcome, and then ascribing that was influenced by God and was meant for you specifically. They're two different things. The astrology thing is problematic as well, and men in general don't trust women who believe in astrology too much. They've done studies on that. Just is what it is. It's viewed as being, and women don't trust men who won't watch the Barbie movie. This is stuff people do statistics on stuff. This is a real thing. With the astrology, what if two people are born in the same hospital within 1 or 2 minutes of each other? They have the exact same charts. What if one of them dies couple months in, or even immediately. Let's say there's two twins and one of them dies, and the other one lives. They got the exact same chart. You follow? How about the kid who was born next to him 2 minutes later, or in the same neck of the woods, so it's the same place astrologically according to the chart? It's not far enough away. It's not like this exact building and then the building over is a different chart. It's not quite like that. There are larger areas. And it's not like 1 minute to the next. It's, kind of dozens of minutes that are involved in calculating the specific TT, and the specific Muhurt you were born in. They got the exact same chart and have wildly different lives. And there's nothing more wildly different than somebody who lives a long life and somebody dies immediately, right? So what are you doing there? They usually find some way around it, but every good cold reader can find some way around it. You follow? The Gita is not such a text. The Gita is a systematic spiritual treatise that is logical and sequential, and one teaching builds on the last, and Krsna is attempting to make an argument. He's presenting his point of view. There's no massive, when you get like big books like even the Mahabharata, it's a big book, or which the Gita occurs as part of the Mahabharata, or let's say the Hebrew Bible or the New Testament. Those books have a number of different authors, and that's not even like something I'm saying. It's there. I mean, the creation story in the beginning of Genesis and later on Genesis are two different creation stories. What to speak of when you get into like Isaiah versus Ezekiel? I mean, they're actually different authors, or the gospel according to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, or Paul's letters to the Romans. You get they're actually different people teaching different things, and they argue with each other. And so there's really no like inherent uniformity in those texts, because there are many different voices, and those voices are not all univocal. People have different opinions, as acknowledged even by rabbinic commentators, as acknowledged even by Jesuit scholars. I mean, it's not even like this is just academics who acknowledge this. The scholars from within those traditions themselves have, for thousands of years, acknowledged the competing voices within these texts. The Gita is not quite like that. It's a pretty tight philosophical treatise. And just like a serious philosophical work written by a contemporary author, published, is going to, be consistent, and maybe the later works of that author and the earlier works, there might be a big difference there. Like famously, if you like Wittgenstein, his later works seem to be the biggest critics of his earlier works. This happens with authors sometimes. But the Gita is consistent, and it's sequential, and one teaching builds on another, and it's meant to be logical, it's meant to be comprehensive, and as such, you need to know where you are in order to appreciate a particular verse. And if you just open the book and flip the pages, which of course is another divination thing, where God's going to influence the way you flip the pages. Kind of like doing a Ouija board, where people just end up pushing stuff in the direction they want to go in. If that's what you want, then you pick a chaotic teaching, which is like a magic 8-ball, where you shake it up and the thing goes and it gives you a message, and you either laugh about it or you try and take it seriously. I mean, there could be a cult of the magic 8-ball. It's no more or less of a claim the water that's in and the dye, and it's, that's influenced by God, the way it's going to go. That's no more of a claim than the claim that the tarot is. And if you want to say, well, it's the tarot interpreter, well, then why throw the tarot? Why not just have him speak some wise words to you? If you're going to say the tarot is important, then you're saying there's some objective thing going on. You follow? And then you're saying that God's way to communicate with you is by influencing random games of chance. In which case you might as well say deal poker hand. I find the claim to be preposterous. But whether you find it preposterous or not, the claim is that claim. God's best method for communicating with his children is to influence the laws of physics when you play random games of chance. That's how you're going to really know what God wants. It's like, perhaps, in my opinion, like one of the dumbest things anybody's ever come up with. It's ludicrous. Go to play a slot machine. God will tell you what you're supposed to do. Want to know whether to buy that house or not? Go play the slot machine. And if it comes up these numbers, it means yes. If it comes up these numbers, it means no. Or go play the slot machine and then have somebody stand next to you and tell you what it means. Go play blackjack and then have somebody stand next to you and tell you what the cards that are dealt to you means. Go play a hand of poker. Don't even worry about whether you win or lose. There's no objective. Have the person interpret it for you. You follow? That system's a divination. Now, if you encounter tradition, the 200-year-old tradition of playing a deck of cards, which is younger than the cards that we play poker with, and they say, hey, God's going to influence this stuff, and you buy into that, all right, that's their system. It might not be logical, it might not be reasonable, but that's their system. At least they're saying this is what we believe in. If you take a philosophical treatise and you then try to turn it into a random game of chance by flipping through the book and looking for a teaching, not only are you engaging in this stupid, illegitimate, unreasonable idea that God's best method, this benevolent person who's omnipotent, right? But the best thing he can come up with is to roll dice to figure out what he wants from you. That's the best thing he can come up with. He's not going to, let's say, inspire teachers who then write down their teachings in ways that are logical, that engages the logical mind and is reasonable and helps to improve your quality of life in some kind of an objective way. No. He's going to random game of chance. And when you roll those dice, you don't even know what they mean. You've got to have somebody else there. They'll read the chicken guts for you. Tell you what they mean. But not only are you making that argument, but you're now saying, I'm going to take a text that's spiritual, where they make a claim that God inspired it, and that text is logical and systematic and sequential, and I'm going to force a random chaotic theory of divination on it, and I'm just going to flip through the pages and ignore the context. So now, not only do you have this terrible idea that seems just totally unreasonable on the surface, but you're actually going against the very book you're venerating. Because the very book you're venerating is a systematic book that presents its teachings logically, and you're forcing it into a randomized, chaotic system. Did you guys follow that? So you're actually insulting the book that you're venerating. Better, less hypocritical, equally stupid, but less hypocritical, maybe less stupid, because it's just one stupid act instead of two stupid acts, it would be to just find a chaotic system. Of course, if you look at the world follows rules. The world is logical. The world follows rules. Things make sense. Logic works. The Pythagorean theorem works. There are axioms. Things like strong and weak nuclear force, Planck's constant. These things actually correctly analyze the structure of the universe and what's going on. So here's the thing. If God created the universe and the universe is logical and reasonable and follows rules, what does that say about the Creator? That he's logical and reasonable and follows rules. Therefore, why would he then, to communicate with his children, pick random chaotic things when he created a universe which makes sense and gave you a mind which is capable of perceiving what makes sense and reading patterns and understanding things logically? In addition to being tonight's rant, because My health is improving, and so I got more energy to rant and rave. In addition to that, I wanted to point out, and I tangented a little bit, but what I was trying to point out from the very beginning is that we should know where we are in the Gita. Because when we encounter a selection of teachings, devoid of the context, just the text, devoid of the context, like, arroz con frijoles, I have rice with beans. Con means beans. So context means that which goes with the text, and one thing that goes with the text is not only the culture it was spoken in, the language it was spoken in, but also what surrounds the text provides context, which means the earlier text and the later text, and what comes before and after what you're reading on that given day. And therefore it's important to remember where we are. You cannot answer this question if you weren't here last week. For those of you who were here last week, what is a super succinct, less than 30-second snapshot of the essential points of where we left off? Not what we discussed in its entirety, but where we left off. Where we left off. It may involve what we discussed in its entirety, but it definitely is where we left off. And if you're looking at the book, you failed. It's okay. You can still raise your hand. I'll let you answer. It's no problem. You can still raise your hand. But you failed, because if you're looking at the book, you're going to try to figure out the context now, which means you don't remember it, which is exactly what the quiz is supposed to test. I, by the way, have not prepared. So I'm playing the same game you're playing. Just came up with it now. But I know the answer, which is why I'm sitting on the chair and you guys are on the floor, because I'm a teacher and you guys aren't, because I know the text really, really well. And so I know the context, and I know the essential context to now understand what's coming next. You guys may or may not know it. Let's find out. Yes, Draupadi.
The past couple of texts we were seeing Krishna explain to us that all of these different systems of ritual can basically be condensed down to his relationship with us, and it's like a very beautifully written text. It's also pretty intimate.
It's all good stuff. All right out of last week's class. Excellent. Not a lot of content in what you said. Okay, it's about intimate love. All these rituals are about his relationship with us. Okay, that's what rituals are, a way of describing God's relationship with people. You missed a key element, which will come out in just a minute. But, you showed you have a good memory. You showed you were paying attention last week. And every single point you made was worth making in relationship to what we talked about last week. Does not get us what we need to do today's class. Pranam.
Krishna says, whatever you do, offer that unto me.
That's the last verse, okay?
It says, even as simple as offering him a flower or water, a leaf. So
that is real specific, and that's relationship. There's an elaborate ritual culture, but Krishna says even more important than that is the love that you offer to God, which can be offered with a leaf of flower, fruit, or water, with any of your activities. Yeah, you missed that point. It's about the intimate relationship, which is as simple as offering a leaf of flower, fruit, or water, or anything you do. And that loving offering, even if very simple, supersedes and goes beyond a very, very elaborate ritual offering, which is made without love and intimacy and purity. See how you missed that point? You want to say it. You said it's all the ritual is about an intimate relationship with God. But you have to say the most important thing is your intimate relationship with God, and therefore ritual is only valuable to the extent it fosters that. And in contrast, something very simple could foster that. Even thinking about God, offering even a simple piece of fruit to God could be more valuable than an elaborate ritual if it is motivated by and inspired by that intimate love for divinity. You say you missed that critical point? You see it, right? And Pranav, you got it. So that's it. That's the most important thing. Anybody want to add anything else? Pranav nailed it, and that's what I was going to take you back to. So you look at text 26 on page 412 in my book. If you look at the spine of the book, it'll say 9:26. The spine of the book, right in the middle there. You'll see it, and you'll know where we go to. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. If one offers with bhakti, with love, a leaf of flower, fruit, or water. Tadaham bhaktupahritam ashnami prayatatmanaha. That thing which is offered with bhakti by a pure soul, I will eat it. I will accept it. That's text 26. Text 27. Yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yaj juhosi, dadasi yat. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever ritual you perform, whatever you offer, whatever you give away, yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat karushva madarpanam. Whatever austerities you perform, that you should do as an offering to me. So Krishna makes two statements. One, you can offer me the simplest thing in the world, a leaf, a flower, a drop of water, a piece of fruit. Human beings can't live where there's no water. And they also can't live where there's no food. And so anywhere where human beings live automatically has food and water, otherwise you're dying. And so if you have food or water, you can then offer those things simply to Krishna and he will accept them. Real simple. Real simple. You follow? You cannot live in a place where there's no plants. Can you live in a place where there's no animals? Probably not. Can you live in a place where there's no animals to eat? Yeah, you probably could. Like no large animals that you could eat. But even if you only ate meat, those animals that you eat have to eat plants, therefore you can't live in a place where there's no plants. Do you guys follow this? So you're all automatically, if you're living somewhere, there's water, otherwise you died. And if you're living somewhere, there's plants. Irrespective of what you eat, there's plants. Got to be. There's also going to be insects and small animals at least. If not, there might not be large animals. And so anywhere you live is going to have these things. And you can just take that and offer it to Krishna. But then that's a more general principle, which is whatever you do in life, you should do as an offering to God. And that makes it even simpler and much more broad than simply a ritual, simple offering with love. It now means your whole life can become an offering to God. These are powerful, like amazing verses in their own right. They're incredibly profound, pregnant, worthy of commentary, worthy of consideration and meditation. That if you are going to have a ritual, it just has to include love. Krishna mentions the word bhakti twice. Tadaham bhaktyupahritam, bhaktya with bhakti, offered with bhakti. Bhaktyupahritam, and then yome bhaktya prayachati, offered with love. And so he mentions the word love twice in one verse. Only verse in the Gita where the word love is mentioned twice. That's what God's eating, your love. Because he already owns everything else. Except for your love. Your love's the one thing you own. You offer that to God. You gave the gift. What you get for somebody else, everything. You give them your love because it's the one thing that you truly possess that they wouldn't have. It's funny. Elon Musk is like the richest person in the world. I think his wealth went down with the Twitter purchase, but he's so smart. It's probably going to end up going back up. I think he's like down maybe to $200 billion, down from 250. Still the richest man in the world. Jeff Bezos, I think, is number 2. I think he's in the 150 category. It's like far below Elon Musk, but still just insanely wealthy. Jeff Bezos is on testosterone now. He's trying to macho himself up. If you look at him in the late 90s, early aughts, he was like the dorkiest guy on the planet. Male pattern baldness, frumpy, looked like an idiot, talked like an idiot. Then he got married, had an affair with his wife with some lady, left his wife, hooked up with that girl. Now he's on testosterone and he's kind of jacked, and he bicks his head every day, so he looks looks a little more like he's trying to go for that Mr. Clean look. And they showed Miss Bezos, I don't remember what her name was. I think they were just dating at that point. He's since married her. They were at some gala affair, like a red carpet type deal, maybe the Met Gala or something else, some kind of big gala affair, and his wife was meeting Leonardo DiCaprio, who now is a little older, but was the major heartthrob of like a generation, maybe 20 years ago, and still is a high-level actor. But he's famous for dating younger women. He's famous for being like a lech lecherous type dude, kind of something. And his wife was meeting Leonardo DiCaprio, and she was just drooling over him. It looked like she was going to like devour him with her eyes. She was like seriously thirsty. And TMZ got a hold of photos and just had a field day with it. Don't ask me how I know this. I don't even know how I know this. This is not my jam. It's not my jam. But somehow or other, I got a hold of this tidbit. I found it fascinating. I did a little research on it. Because this guy's worth $150 billion. He can pretty much buy or sell anybody. I mean, his net worth is probably more than the domestic product of like small countries. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, he can buy islands. It's like insane the amount of wealth he has. But he can't buy love. And I couldn't stop his woman from drooling over an A-list actor. You follow? Then he tried to recover from it because it was some humiliating press for him. So then Jeff Bezos was like, he stood on the edge of a cliff that said danger, like, look out, you're going to fall to your death. And then he posted a picture of himself on Twitter going, hey, Leonardo, come over this way. Like he was going to push him off a cliff or something like that. Which then, he tried to kind of get back his manhood a little bit because he got kind of like semi-cucked or something like that by Leonardo DiCaprio at this, in public. And so he was trying to recover from that and man up a little bit. But then he just got skewered for that because he looked petty. So he actually got humiliated twice because that attempt at recovery and to make fun of it and make it light just invited more criticism of just see how petty this guy is. So with $150 million, his woman's thirst trapping this other guy, and then he has to make these stupid jokes on Twitter to try to recover his manhood. So they actually made that commentary, and I was just like, oh God, it's like I had like secondhand embarrassment for Jeff Bezos. It was like rough to read. And then Elon Musk, he's got like a string of girlfriends over the years. He's had kids with some of them. And they all end up breaking up. And he has to just like pay him a bunch of alimony and child support and throw out a bunch of money, settle some lawsuits. And as rich as he is, he doesn't really seem to have solved for romance. Well, to speak of for fatherhood, guaranteed his kids are going to hate his guts. I think I've read something about that. And so, like he went to a PTA meeting, didn't like what they were doing, says, hey, I'll buy the school. Let's develop our own curriculum. Like that's how wealthy he is, right? Like goes to buy a car, doesn't like the deal you're giving him, so he buys the car lot. He's like that level of wealth. Like it's just insane wealth. Still has a bunch of failed romances and illegitimate children, a bunch of baby mamas. You can't buy love. Even the richest man in the world can't buy love. It's like a different category. It's like colors versus numbers. You can like get really good with numbers and not understand colors. It's like art versus science. It's two different fields of human endeavor. And Krishna's making it clear that he doesn't care about what you have. He cares more about the quality of your heart. Which is how all of us feel. I mean, if God existed and was intelligent and thoughtful and loving, then naturally that would be how God would feel on a superlative level. And so it's not even difficult to understand because how all of us feel too. Like for sure, if you offered me all the money in the world, I would not leave my wife. You follow? I might agree to have her like look lustfully at somebody on camera if you offered me like enough money. I might like that might not like absolutely kill me, but I don't know, maybe it would. It definitely bummed me out pretty majorly. I don't know if I'd be able to recover from it. It'd be like kind of wreck you because you care about people, you depend on them, you trust them, and they betray you like that or like throw your heart kind of a little bit in the dirt, it's painful. Krishna's making an incredibly profound point, which is so true. It's true on TMZ. It's true on the red carpet. It's true in your life. It's true every day. Such an amazing point, right? And then, if that's not all, he explains to you the essence of a beautiful ritual offering, a simple ritual offering. And then Krishna just mind-blowingly explains, no, don't get caught up in ritual. Your whole life should become an offering. There's no limit to what you can offer to God. Your thoughts and feelings and your day-to-day and everything you do and every breath you take can ultimately be an offering to the divine. Which is just the broadness of that idea, the richness of that idea. And of course, an all-good, all-powerful God would create such a universe where there would be no limit, where everything you do could be an offering. And so Krishna strips down ritual to its essence and then explodes ritual into a living ritual where your whole life becomes an offering. And shows the limitations of a ritual, which is that's a specific act at a specific time, which it just is a discrete chunk of time and a discrete unit, which may not actually represent the quality of your whole heart. And then the real offering would be a whole lifetime, which is, amazingly, it was what we're all looking for. Someone who will love us forever. Someone whose love is deep as an ocean. And it's heartbreaking, heart-wrenching when you experience shallow love, which is, doesn't really deserve to go by the name love. We're into deep love. Think about it. Of course, if you're into deep love, what do you need to be able to do? You need to be able to love deeply yourself. If you're shallow and you want deep love, it's not going to work. Deep people are going to avoid you like the plague. So if you want to attract deep love, profound love for the ages, platonic and romantic, the first thing you need to do is become such a deep person capable of receiving and giving such love yourself. So you see how rich the verses are? I mean, there's like serious stuff being laid out here. Thing is, Krishna sounds like he's... Anyway, let's read the next verse now. And this is today's reading now. Shubha, Ashubha, Palayar eva moksha se karma bandhana. You will be, moksha se, you will be released from karma bandhana, from the bondage of karma. Shubha, Ashubha, Palayar. And it's along with its auspicious and inauspicious fruits. We usually think of karma that you want to be released from as being bad karma. But in the Gita, all karma is material, whether it's good or bad, and therefore liberation consists of giving up good and bad karma. You also got to get rid of the good karma you get from walking old ladies across the street. You want to be free of all karma in a transcendental position. So that's an interesting idea that's specific to Hinduism and the Gita. And you don't see it as much in other cultures. It is there, but it's an idea which is, you can't kind of scratch the Gita without coming across this teaching. Sannyasa yoga yuktatma vimukta mam upasyasi. And you will come to me. The person who is yoked to this renunciation, to this sannyas yoga, to this yoga of renunciation, of freeing themselves from good and bad karma by doing what? By offering themselves to me, by making everything an offering to me. See, this verse is not independent of the verses about bhakti. This verse says sannyas yoga yuktatma, the soul who is yoked to sannyas, to renunciation. But it's not renunciation. It's the soul that's yoked to renunciation by offering everything with love to Krishna including the simplest offering of a leaf and flower, fruit and water. So this verse is directly linked to the bhakti of the previous verses. It's an extension of the previous verses, showing that the kind of standard Upanishadic wisdom of a Stoic individual is not a distinct teaching from the teaching of intimate love. And rather, the one who loves Krishna intimately is automatically the greatest Stoic, because he has a big yes in his life that he anchors himself to, which allows him to give up all the lower yeses that people get attached to in this world, all the lower addictions people get attached to in this world. And so you have here a really amazing marriage of classic Upanishadic wisdom, Stoicism, a culture of renunciation, ascetic culture, which is normally devoid of emotion, devoid of feeling. You're supposed to be very, very cool and calm and detached, like almost Buddhist or ascetic or renunciates, like that you see. We don't care about anything. But that's not the case here. You're madly in love with Krishna. Everything you do is an offering to him. It's an intimate relationship. And that creates the exact same effect of being a renunciate in this world. You let go of caring about this world. So much you even let go of your good karma. You even want to drop that. And then, mam upaisyasi. And then you will come to me. Then you'll come to me. Once you've given up all your attachment to this world and fallen madly in love with me, and everything you do is an offering to me, then you'll come to me, freed from your good and bad karma. So now we've completed the teaching, right? And each verse is important. The previous verses about ritual were important. Then the verse about just offering me the simplest things, that's just like mind-blowing. The simplification of ritual and distilling it down to its essence. That's just mind-blowing. That's worth the price of admission right there. Done. Gets to the heart of what it means to be a person. Our search for love. The most ineffable of things. The one thing you can't buy. As evidenced by the kitschy stories I told you guys. It was actually a purport. It's the one thing you can't buy. It's what you get. The person has everything. And then, that still has a limitation of being linked to a ritual world, and it's time-bound, it's a specific, discrete act. And then Krishna refuses to end there, and he broadens it to your whole life becomes an offering. Then he links it to renunciation and stoicism, where now you're so in love with Krishna, you fall out of love with the material world. Now you're so in love with Krishna, you let go of everything. How much? You even let go of good karma. And then, mam upaisasi. Then you will come to me. Moksha se ashubha, shubha ashubha, palai. You become free from good and bad fruits. Karma bandhana, moksha, you become liberated from that. And then in that renounced state where you're liberated from everything in this world, mam upaisasi, you'll come to me. Again, keeping the bhakti element. You're seeing the link, right? In a way you never have, right?
I've seen it.
You've seen it before? You've noticed it before? Good. I believe you. Most people I wouldn't believe. I believe you. I've never seen it before. Today. Obviously I know all the verses about bhakti, but this linkage where the sannyas yoga is not sannyas yoga, it's an extension of the previous verses. I'd never noticed that before.
I didn't see that before.
That was the point I was asking about. Can't even follow the question. What does he understand the answer? The point obviously I assumed you understood the ritual and then your whole life. That's beautiful and noteworthy and indicative of your learning. But I would assume as much from you. I'd be surprised if you didn't see it. The point I was asking you about was this sannyas yoga, yuktatma, the soul that's yoked to sannyas yoga and freed from their good and bad karma, and how Krishna merged stoicism with love, and then the last line makes that link. It's like a sandwich. It's like you love me, you're a full renunciate, you leave this world, you're liberated from this world, and then you come to me. And that you come to me, even in the verse itself, the context links the ideas, but in the verse itself, mam upaisasi, you will come to me, then directly, textually links the previous verses to this verse. And doesn't let you stray too far away with these ascetic ideas of sannyas and stoicism and Buddhism and renunciation. That was what I was asking if you'd seen before. And the answer is?
No.
Okay. I would believe you. If you told me you had, I'd believe you. I was surprised, but not like to the point where I would think you were being, you're not a dishonest person. You're always very straightforward. If like he told me he'd seen that, I'd be like, you're a liar. Or he told me, I'd be like, you're a liar. But you, I believe, because you studied the Gita, you spent time with the text. I'd be impressed, because I've never noticed it. But yeah. Even for myself, having read the book 1,000 times, having lectured on this verse probably 100 times, even myself, as I'm reading it in context, I'm seeing things I've never seen before. After 35 years. I'm studying right now in front of you guys, and I'm seeing stuff. I study with you guys. That's what's happening here. I'm studying the verse in front of you, not because I don't respect you enough to study ahead of time, but I do lecture every day, so if I have to prepare for all my lectures, it gets a little onerous. But I actually think that it's better. I can do the work without making major mistakes or gaffes. I'm good enough. You know, Miles Davis, you guys know who Miles Davis is? A very famous horn player, jazz, kind of eventually like acid jazz, but previously like was a master of bebop, like really fast psychotic jazz that just like required just incredible, and then he got kind of flowy, but you know like a maniac, like a jazz man's jazz man, one of the best jazz musicians of all time, one of the best horn players in the history of the world. Universally accepted. Anyway, he's played with a guy named Herbie Hancock. You guys know who Herbie Hancock is? Herbie Hancock is a super famous musician who became popular. But before he became popular as a pop artist, with a song called Rocket in the early 80s, he was a jazz musician as a young man. And he played with Miles Davis. Miles Davis played for Herbie Hancock to play with him. And Herbie Hancock said that Miles Davis would come into their dressing room before the gig, where they were going to perform jazz in front of people, you know, in front of a large audience in the 60s. And he would just play a little riff for the artist and say, that's what we're going to be working with tonight. Just for you to have something to think about. Just a little riff. Like something he thought of during the day. Here's a little riff. That's what we're going to be building on tonight. Like, that's it. And then he would tell them, I'm paying you to practice with me on stage. And then they would just go up on stage and they would riff off of each other in front of a live studio audience. And it was, you know, people would pay money to watch it because they were so good. So if you are masterful of the subject, you should be able to just riff. And that's educational for people. It's valuable because they get a chance to see how it's done in real time. So because I spend a lot of time with the text. I mean, I'm smart, but I spend a lot of time with the text. Even if I wasn't smart, I probably know a whole bunch. I am smart, so I know like a super whole bunch. But you know, I spent 35 years reading the book every day, and I read it 1,000 times, and I know most of the verses by heart, and so yeah, it makes sense that I'm able to do this kind of stuff, as will you if you spend time with the text, and you'll be able to do it really quick if you listen to the distilled lessons I'm teaching you, which allow you to cut into the text at a very, very high level and do stuff which took me decades to do, and you can do it in minutes because I'm telling you exactly how to do it. You can't remember what I'm saying, so you won't be able to do it. But if you could remember everything I'm saying, I'm giving you 30 years of study distilled that'll help you cut into the text at a very high level. But you can't remember, so I've got to repeat it over and over again. How do I know you can't remember? Because I ask you guys every week, and you can't remember what I said the week before. What's the speaker remembering all the stuff I'm teaching? That's how I know. I ask you guys 5 minutes later. You can hardly get 10% of what I said. You follow? That's how I know. Am I exaggerating? No, you guys who come every week, you know. I'm regularly like bewildered by your lack of ability to remember what I'm teaching. It's like, I'm stunned. You guys like, say when I stunned you with the school teaching, you guys sometimes stun me with your inability to remember hardly anything I say. But I mean, I'm being heavy and aggressive because I really want you guys to get it. I want you guys to take this seriously. It's important stuff. And man, if I had teachers like you guys, like if I was you and I had a teacher like me, I would have learned so. Like I could just like it would have gone so much faster. You follow? I had better teachers than me, but I had teachers who lived by their example, the Gita. In terms of getting this kind of education, verse by verse, having somebody cram the truth, like shove it down my throat, and argue from every angle of vision, I had to do that myself. But I have that capacity, so whatever, I'm not missing out. Most people lack that ability. I don't. But what I had from my teachers was I had people who lived the Gita. I have people who live the Gita, which is the most inspirational, and that means the most to me. I'm smart, so I can do this stuff I'm teaching you guys. But that's the magic. People who live the Gita. I'm trying to do that. But anyway, the verse translation. In this way, again, Prabhupada connects it to the previous verse by doing these offerings. That's not stated in the Sanskrit, but Prabhupada connects it. Huh? I mean, yeah, Ava means certainly. It's generally conceived of as being a rhythmic filler. So what probably happened there was the people who did the word-by-word translation, which wasn't always Prabhupada, they try to link up Prabhupada's translation with what's in the verse. But certainly if you looked at, like a bunch of commentaries, like atta, therefore, there are words in Sanskrit which definitely connect, There are ways of connecting stuff. Avam is more of a rhythmic filler that means certainly, and then you get to add it into the verse in whatever way you want to. Here, Prabhupada, in this way. So it's not necessarily bad, but Ava more means certainly. Certainly you will be freed, right? But Prabhupada makes it explicit. Prabhupada makes it explicit in this way, by doing what's in the previous verses. You'll be freed from bondage, bandhana, to work, karma, and its auspicious, shubha, and inauspicious, ashubha, results, palai. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation. That's not in the Sanskrit. With your mind fixed on me. That's not there. It just says, yoked to the yoga of renunciation. Again, Prabhupada's connecting it to the previous verse. And that's important. It's not wrong. That's what translators get to do. They can do a literal translation, or they can add things into the translation to help you understand the context. If they're a good translator, their addition brings the text to life. If they're a bad translator, they detract from the text. Prabhupada, because we've gone through the verses literally, and we've analyzed them, we can appreciate how elegant Prabhupada's translation work is. Sannyas also means sannyas, to completely throw something down. And throwing something down means maybe it could be throwing something down in front of somebody, like an offering. To offer something, to renounce it, to let it go. Offer it at the feet of the Lord. And so there are ways to interpret sannyas to mean, and Prabhupada, Krishna says stuff like mayi sannyas, that you renounce things to me. He says that. In fact, the first time he introduces the term sannyas, I believe in the Gita, is in relationship to himself, renouncing things to me. It's the first time he uses the word sannyas, which is a word for renunciation. And so it's certainly not wrong for Prabhupada to translate like this, even just etymologically. It's a little bit of a stretch, but definitely within the context, it's totally appropriate. And he's just said, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, in this section, if you just think of me and nothing else, that's enough. So he's directly recommended that just a couple of verses ago. with your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated, moksha say, you'll be liberated, and come to me. Mamupaisasi, you'll come to me. So there you go. Super clean translation. Super clean translation. We're not going to do the rest of this, but we have not yet discussed what I want to discuss today. The entire purpose of class was to discuss the point that's coming next, but it took 50 minutes because when I listened to you guys say what was in the previous verses, I realized that to appreciate the point I want to make now, I had to do everything I did for the last 50 minutes. Not necessarily the stuff about the critique, the sustained critique of divination systems and the chaotic theory behind them, but you needed that to appreciate the systematic nature of the Gita. I probably could have done it in a shorter time frame. But everything we've done studying the text is to lead up to this point, which we're not even going to discuss fully, but it would be terrible if I didn't discuss the point which the whole class was set up to make. Krishna's now argued, and I've explained what he's argued. I've gone through it. I even backed up for you. I explained the essence of what he's argued. I'm not going to repeat it. And now comes this verse. Samoham sarvabhuteshu. I am equal towards all people. Name dvesha astina priyaha. No one is hated by or overly dear to me. Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya. But those who worship me with bhakti, mayi teshu, mayite, they're in me, api teshu aham, and I am in them. Samoham sarva bhuteshu. I'm equal to all beings. Sama means same. So where you get the English word same from. Sama aham, I am the same. Sarva bhuteshu, towards all beings. Sarva bhuta means all beings. Sarva bhuteshu means towards all beings. Name dvesha. I don't hate anyone. No one is hated by me. Astina priyaha. No one is dear to me. Ye bhajanti, but those who worship me. Bhaj is where you get the word bhakti from. Those who worship me. Tu mam, but those who worship me. Mam, me. Bhaktya, with bhakti. Mayite, they are in me. Api, and even teshu aham, I am in them. Why is Krishna saying this verse now? I'm expecting you know this. I'll be surprised if you don't. Especially with the setup in class, but even maybe separate from it. Why is Krishna speaking this verse now? I have given you all the tools to answer this question. It depends on the context, because I'm asking you in relationship to the rest of the text, why is Krishna speaking this verse now? And I feel like I've handed the answer to you on a silver platter, and the fact that all your hands did not go up immediately worries me, because it means you've understood a fraction of what I taught. Because had you understood even half of what I taught, even a quarter of what I taught, your hands would have immediately gone up. The entire class was to make you able to instantly answer this question. And you failed because you haven't all raised your hand. What do you got?
Because he's talking about love, so he's trying to make the distinction that is love one more than the other.
Yes. Krishna's gone so big on the theme of bhakti that it might make someone think Krishna's in love with his devotees. And so Krishna's going to remind us that no. The door's open for everybody. If you chose to come through the door, then we're in the house together. If you want to stay outside, you can do that. But I'm open to everybody. I'm not favoring somebody. I'm not partial. You're interested in an intimate relationship. Therefore, we have an intimate relationship. But that door's open to everybody. He's protecting himself from the criticism of partiality. The Jewish God loves the Israeli people more than he loves the people of Babylon or Egypt or other places, Moab or other places that they used to go to war with. You follow? These critiques are there, right? Where a deity just loves his followers. And so Krishna's gone so big on the theme of bhakti, and it's almost insane how much he's willing to help you, how little he's looking for from you, how simple the whole thing is. This theme of love and devotion and grace has gone so big that Krishna said, hey, don't forget, I'm equal to everybody. And in the same way that Krishna married his teachings with Stoicism, so you weren't left with this idea that we were just a bunch of emotional bhavukas. We weren't just these emotionally unbalanced, crazy, fanatic, unphilosophical people. Because we talk about love so much. And that we're actually the great Stoics and great Buddhists and great renunciates. That was the last verse, right? And this verse now is protected. So that verse protected the devotee and the fullness of the process. And this verse protects Krishna. Because he's evening things out, so we'll understand, no, I'm equal to everybody. I don't hate or favor anybody. If you want to approach me in this intimate way, then you're in me and I'm in you, and we have this intimate relationship. But that door's open to everybody. See how smooth that is? Do you see how the entire class I was trying to teach this point? Because I spoke about how big he went with regard to bhakti, how simple he made it, right? And then this verse comes along, which is about impartiality. And once you know the previous verses, and you hear this verse, you're like, oh. And once you know how he just rescued us, the process of bhakti isn't just emotional, nor is Krishna just emotional. It's reasonable. It's logical. And so you've got this intense devotion mixed with full logic. Intense devotion mixed with full renunciation. Intense devotion mixed with a super aloof, transcendent deity. And therefore the fault of partiality doesn't touch Krishna the way it so often is ascribed to deities that proclaim their fidelity and their chastity towards the devotee. They're seen as sectarian gods. And Krishna's refusing to play into that. You see it? You see how I was setting you up for it? Did you miss it? You missed it, right? That's how I know you didn't even follow a quarter of what I said. Did you miss it? Of course you miss it. You don't come to class regularly. Of course you're going to miss it. You shouldn't miss it. But I understand. You missed it. You missed it. You missed it. You got it. You didn't get it? It's all right. You got to come more often, man. I'm bummed because you're smart and you're educated, but you haven't learned to think like me yet. And I'm trying to teach you guys how to think. And you got the brain power for it, but you haven't. You're too rigid in your thought process. You're not pliable enough. I'm trying to actually teach you how to think. And if you can think in the way I do, then you'll start seeing all this stuff. You got it. Oh, not before. You? M. You? How about you, Draupadi? You didn't get it. You think you did, but just like when you asked that last question, you couldn't answer it. Everybody thinks they got it till they open their mouth. These guys have thought they got it so many times, and I'll be like, okay, tell me. And I'll show them how they didn't get it, and then they're humiliated. So now no one tells me they've got it unless they're fully aware they can articulate it. Whenever you say to somebody, I understood it, but I can't say it, what you're really saying is, I don't understand it. Because if you understand something, you can explain it. If you understand it but can't explain it, you don't understand it. Simple rule. And that's why it's really important to talk. So you test yourself. Did you follow it? Did you catch it? That doesn't count. Once he says it, if he said it and you didn't get it, we got problems. I'm not going to ask you guys because I'm just honored you guys are here. Thank you very much for coming. But we want to get to where we feel the text, where it comes to life for us, where it makes sense to us, where the pages open up to us, where the beauty of Krishna's message leaps off the page and into our heart. We have a feeling for the text. And it's inspired, and we get inspired. And we get in that current. We want that. You can do it. It's grace, but it's also cultivation and sincerity, and you got to put in some time to show your love. Tell somebody you love them, but you never do anything. Tell somebody you love them, but you never do anything. Who's going to believe you?